Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kim and I just wanted to ask you to take a moment and give me a thumbs up if you enjoy this video, as well as subscribe if you haven't already. Alright, so let's get into today's video. I will be reviewing The Hunger by Alma Katsu. So I'll put it back here so that I can have my hands free to talk and gesture and everything else that I like to do. It just makes things a little bit easier. So again, this is a historical fiction book with some horror elements thrown in to make it a little bit more interesting, and it was copyrighted back in 2018. So some things, kind of a short synopsis of this book. You are following the Donner Party back in the 1800s. This is a group of migrants who are going from the East Coast out towards the West Coast to California. And for the most part, they start the journey on the Oregon Trail, which is very much followed and has been used quite a bit by previous migrants going out that way. So they were doing okay at the start, and then the leader had read a book by Hastings that takes a detour off from the Oregon Trail, and that's supposed to be quicker to get to their destination, and things kind of go downhill even faster from that point on. Okay, so that's kind of what this book is about. Again, there are horror elements, the paranormal elements thrown in to make it even more engaging and a little bit even more horrific than what actually occurred. Again, I went into this book not knowing anything about the Donner Party. About halfway to almost finished with the book, I went back and researched in what this whole thing was about. And it had some pretty gruesome details, just the things that went on there, and then you add in the kind of paranormal stuff, made it even more spooky and more creepy to read. So I enjoyed that aspect. So I did overall enjoy this book. I loved how she interwove the elements of horror into this story. She created a lot of suspense and anxiousness, and creating all of these dark secrets everybody had and how they were interconnected to each other. And as, of course, bad things happen, secrets get told and all of that. So yeah, that made it really interesting to read and learn how is everyone connected to each other, because you don't know that going in. So this is a little bit of spoilery, but as the story progresses, you start seeing or revealing who is connected to who and why. So that made it really interesting to read. This story does exemplify that if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to get yourself into a bind really fast. And that's kind of where these greenhorns, I guess you would call them, migrants did. They thought it was this huge, just this great little lark they were going on. It wasn't going to be that bad. So they didn't get started right away, and they wasted a lot of time, and a lot of supplies were very wastefully used because they thought it was a big party and all of that, and they didn't want to listen to a person that actually knew what he was talking about, because he kind of came off as a know-it-all. So they kind of kicked him sort of to the side and ignored him and all of that type of thing. So yeah. So they got into bind, not only wasting things, lagging in time, which put them into a bad part of the year, and other things that went on. Again, superstitions is heavily detailed in this book, how they can play on a person's mind, the thoughts of women, if they are strong women, how they are viewed, and all of those types of things go on in it. A lot of bad things do happen, not only just with the general survival parts, but also these supernatural elements given to the story. So yeah, so people started distrusting one another instead of banding together. They split and started isolating people from the group, and things continued to go downhill. So she did have a unique perspective in how she used it as a disease that kind of went through, and is why people started behaving the way they did. They brought in kind of a Native American legend or myth. I'm not sure how accurate that part is, but she interwove that into the story as well, and all of that. So it was kind of portrayed as a mental slash physical disability that created this almost cannibalistic nature and drive that people couldn't overcome. So overall, I believe I gave it a 4-star because I just wanted more of the supernatural elements, because she would tease it and then it didn't really ever come out as much as I wanted it to. I was hoping it would really take on, but it never really reached, I thought, its full potential in the story, because you would hear that something is, you know, trailing them or stalking them, and then it just kind of mellowed out. It never really got to the extent that I really wanted it to. Not that I'm a huge gory fan, but I think she could have developed that part a little bit more, because she teased you and you think you were going to get all of it, and then it just kind of fizzed out. So that was a little bit of letdown. That's why I gave it a 4. It's still a good book. I would definitely recommend it to anyone who likes kind of that historical horror genre. This was my first kind of mix of that I've really read. So I was definitely interested in reading more from her, but I would like more of the horror element to be more of a feature role and not just almost as an afterthought, but not quite, because it's on that borderline of that. Yeah, hair in my mouth from the kitty cat. Ew. But yeah, so that's why I gave it a 4 instead of a 5. I do want to read more. I'm looking at more books from her. If you have any recommendations of Alma Katsu's writing that you think I would really love, that, you know, brings all of the elements out fully and not just, oh, I'm going to come just this far and then fizz out, that's kind of where I'm at on that book, and where I'm going to leave you guys with it. Hopefully I haven't spoiled it too much for you. I mean, it is a really good story. If you're into historical fiction, I think you would like it. But it does depart a little bit and throws in, like I said, the horror elements to the story, just to amp up the spookiness a little bit. But she didn't go overboard with it. I think she could have gone a little bit further, but we've already talked about that. Anyways, I hope you have enjoyed today's review video of this story. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Again, subscribe if you have not already. And until my next video, I hope you have a good one. Bye.